Welcome back, everybody, to The Quad, and here in our Jerusalem studios with my wonderful co-host, Vivian Berkovici, former ambassador of Canada to Israel and has her own podcast, State of Tel Aviv, Emily Schrader, human rights activist and journalist. And today we have a very special co-host, Ashley Waxman Bakshi, who is a content creator and an activist, and it's really wonderful having you.
It's amazing to be here.
And, you know, I really admire what the work that you do, because you were a content creator. You were in a completely different world a couple of years ago. Of course, it's intensified since October 7th. You were doing makeup online and very, very popular. What happened?
Well, a lot of people don't know this about me, but when I was in university, in my Canadian university 20 years ago, I actually started a pro-Israel Hasbara kind of club, fighting against, you know, the lies that we're seeing on campuses today. Nothing's new.
So like Emily, I think that was your genesis, right?
Yeah, Emily and I are good friends, and we're very similar in that aspect. And I came to Israel, and I went to the army, and I studied my master's in counterterrorism and homeland security, and then I worked in the Ministry of Defense, and then just randomly I realized that there are beauty tutorials online on YouTube. This was in 2012, and I had been a makeup artist from before. I started uploading the videos, and they went really well. But something inside of me always knew that I would end up using my platform for the State of Israel. I just never knew when and how. And it was during Operation Guardian of the Walls in May 2021 that I saw what was happening online, specifically with influencers from my field, from fashion and beauty, spreading lies about Israel and about Zionism. And I felt like I was called to the flag, as we say in Hebrew. Mm-hmm. And ever since then, I've been vocal using my platform. Since October 7th, of course, it's also become much more intense for all of us who were doing it from before, but for me also on a personal level, because my cousin, Agam, she's 19. She is one of the hostages still being held by Hamas.
Oh, my God.
And I just have to say, Ashley, like the work that you've been doing since October 7th beyond social media for Agam is incredible.
Thank you.
Like your courage and your tenacity in approaching this issue in a way that isn't political in a detrimental way, but like calls out the proper people is like extremely impressive. And I know you've literally been all over the world meeting with different world leaders on this issue. So thank you for that. And also all of us will continue to speak about this issue.
I do think it's really important, especially when as a family member, I have been calling out every single politician, whether in Israel or outside of Israel, whenever they say something that I don't believe in and that I don't stand for, whether it's from the left, from the right, from Western countries, from Middle Eastern countries, I call out everyone. I'm just so disappointed. I mean, this week there was a letter by some people in the government about, please don't take the deal, don't do the deal. And I just think nobody who has a child at least has the right to say, don't take a deal, because what will you do? So I just think it's a very difficult position that these people who have to make the decision are in. There's absolutely no doubt. There's a lot of risks. But don't ever make the decision like if it wasn't your child or your cousin or your family member in there. I think that's unfair. And I really feel strongly about this. And when I saw the list, some of the MKs who I know, I was like, what would you do if it was your child? And it makes me really angry.
I think one of the important things for people to understand is that unfortunately, we are a very, very politicized country, and everything turns political. Yeah. And unfortunately, the hostages have been made into political pawns on both sides. Yeah. And we see that happening. And again, like I said, I call out all politicians on both sides doing that. And I am one who, for the first few months of this war, was not standing on the streets calling for a deal now, because I understood that there was still a long way to go in our fight against Hamas, because we need to understand, of course, there are two objectives in this war, one to bring home the hostages and one to defeat Hamas's military capabilities. I think we are now finally at the point where we can live with a deal. I think in the past we were not there. And I think finally we are hearing from everywhere that there are certain concessions that have been made on both sides. There's a way to make this work. And we'll speak about this a little bit more when we talk about Bibi's trip to the Congress. But I think we are finally in the position where everybody needs to, as you said,
look themselves in the mirror and say, we need to treat this deal as if it is my child that is there. And the ones who are alive, and we know they are alive, need to come home.
Absolutely. Amen. And we pray for that every week here. Okay, so you segued us into Bibi, Biden, and everything that's going on right now and will continue to go on regarding our war, our diplomatic war that we have, because we're fighting 3 wars. We're fighting the military war, we're fighting a diplomatic war, and we're fighting a public diplomatic war. And I think we're all involved in certainly the second and the third of those fights. And so Bibi's Washington trip, good thing, bad thing. I think that, first of all, we're in a time of war. I don't think it's something that is out of character or out of policy that a prime minister should go, especially when the United States are our major military supplier, especially when there have been problems. And so Bibi's in Washington. He's taken, I think, hostage families with him, which I think it's a good thing, so that these Congress people can look in the face. The deal that it is proposed right now, is a deal that Biden put together, or his team put together. It's a deal that Israel and America have worked with together. But Vivian, I feel like you have some strong feelings that Bibi should not be in Washington.
Are you feeling this energy coming?
Yeah, I also felt it. I also felt
feeling this very
normally we agree.
negative energy coming your way.
No, not negative. I would say totally positive, sensible, realistic.
Go on.
Look, first of all, let's be clear. He's not going with families. There are a few families that agreed to go on the plane with him. Most did not. He sat down in a room yesterday, late in the day in D.C., with a large group of families, most of whom were not on the plane with him. And they said, you cannot give a speech without having signed a deal first.
Why? Why?
Well, because I think that their message, and my feeling, I happen to agree with them, is his job right now is to represent his people, and the most important issue in this country right now is bringing home the hostages, anyone who's alive, and of course those who are not.
So why?
That's it.
Why is he not doing that by going to Washington?
Well, what is he doing by going to Washington?
Because Washington isn't who needs to be pressured. I mean, if he needs to go somewhere, if he needs to go somewhere for a political reason in order to make a deal happen, it's not Washington where he needs to go. I mean, from day one, it shouldn't even be a conflict or a tension between the United States and Israel. The United States and Israel should have been on the same page from day one, pressuring Qatar, as well as the rest of the international
shutting
community.
down their bank accounts.
But isn't it
crazy?
No. What this is, and I don't even remember the details, but it's a quid pro quo. A couple of months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, Bibi was under enormous pressure. He gave in to one particular American demand. I don't remember what it was. And in return, they said, okay, Biden's going to invite you to speak to a joint session of Congress. This is ego. This is grandstanding.
I didn't know.
This accomplishes nothing. He has been prime minister for most of the last 20 years. He has gone to speak to Congress on 4 occasions. The last one was super controversial. I still don't understand on a practical level what this does. What does it do? So it takes him out of here for 48 hours minimum. Yes, he has communications on the plane, but the fact is, when you're engaged in such delicate moment-to-moment negotiations as this country is now, you have to be there immediately, accessible.
There would be here. He's sending out his teams to Doha. Ashley, what do you think?
So I actually disagree. And again, I want to say, just because I'm a family member doesn't mean I represent the views and opinions of all family members, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I think it's a good thing that he's going. For a number of reasons, one of which the deal has not yet been signed. And one of the things that are very, very critical in this deal is what is going to happen with Philadelphia. And America steps in here big time, because we know we cannot rely on Egypt as we did in the past. And so I think that aside from speaking in Congress, and, we know Bibi has his ego and he likes to be, to be heard. I think that the side meetings are critical. Talking practically about what will be done if this agreement will be signed from the American side. And another reason I also think it's important is, I don't need to tell you ladies, we know that one of the big problems in Israel is strategic thinking. And I think that especially during an election year where polls are showing likelihood that the Republicans are going to be winning, I think it's important for Bibi to go make those connections now for what could come up ahead in November.
And maybe make up with Trump, who apparently there was a falling out.
That's what I'm saying.
It's true.
So I think that there's political justification. I think there's justification in terms of making the deal happen. Now, mind you, I agree with the families that you said last night said what they said, because my messaging would be that a true win for Netanyahu, not for Israel, I'm talking about from him, from his own ego, a true win for Netanyahu would be a split screen of him speaking in Congress and on the other side, the hostages being released.
Ain't happening.
It's not happening.
Let me just point at one other sort of very important hangnail. Our negotiating teams are not in Doha. They're returning, in Cairo. They're returning on Thursday. That's 2 days from now. And that is on Bibi's command, okay? He brought them back and he says, thou shalt not return until Thursday. Why? So that all the spotlight will be on him and so that there will not be progress towards an agreement between now and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever. And here's something really important. David Barnea, who is the head of the Mossad, he said a few days ago, the girls, and he was referring specifically to the Tatzpitaniyot, the IDF female soldiers who were taken from Nahal Oz base brutally. He said those girls are out of time. They don't have days. They don't have weeks. We have to bring them home now, as in today. And why did he say that? Do the math. And I'm sorry, Ashley, I don't mean to be insensitive, but we all know that there have been horrific assaults throughout the period and that it's 9 months. Yeah. And there is the possibility, we have to understand, that one or more of these young women will be giving birth in an airless, windowless, suffocating, filthy tunnel without medical care. And the possibility of horrific consequences is real. David Barnea, the head of the Mossad, did not say that publicly on a whim.
I agree with you 100%. I just think that the visit to Washington could actually push Bibi to sign the deal.
I agree with that. I think that could be what pushes him. And also, let's not forget.
I hope you're right.
And I know that everybody likes to just blame Bibi for everything.
Not me. I blame other people. Lots of other people.
But
we all blame everyone for everything.
I have to say, the last 2 days we heard that it was Hamas that had an extra 20 clauses that they wanted to change. It's not, I agree with you that it hasn't been prioritized enough. But I don't agree that it's Israel being intransigent constantly.
I think there's 9.5 months. We should not even be talking about this. This should not be a thing.
Do you think the deal didn't happen because of us? You really do?
I think in large part, yes, I do think.
There's still a large part of our population that does not agree with the current deal on the table.
Yeah. I think there's another aspect to the Netanyahu visit that's problematic from my perspective. As the only American on the table.
Oh, wow.
I got ganged up on by the Canadians.
Yes, the Canadians are forced today.
But the Bibi being there now right before an election, at a time when the Democrats are very much struggling when it comes to Israel and support for Israel, is divisive. It's damaging within the United States to the state of Israel because Bibi is such a problematic, figure. Maybe that's something that's justified. Maybe that's something that's not justified, but it is the reality today. And so for him to go right now, right before an election, after an attempted Trump assassination, after all of this chaos with Biden, who was sick and canceled the meeting, and lots of things are up in the air. And you also have a huge movement, I think unjustifiably, but a huge movement against Israel with protests. They're talking about surrounding the Capitol building now with a potentially, another January 6th, just a different crowd. This is craziness, and it's all being fueled by Netanyahu himself. And I agree with you that the meetings are important, but he didn't have to do a speech in Congress. He didn't have to do all the propaganda. I mean, the picture he uploaded on his social media is like him on his plane with the hat that says "Total Victory."
Right?
What are you running for office? Is this an election campaign?
I hated
that. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to be using things this way at a time when we have people on the front lines who are dying for this country. When we have hostages, over 100 hostages who have been there for 9 months. What has he accomplished? What has he accomplished? It's not okay.
Well, he would say, now that he's here, that basically they've dismantled the capabilities of Hamas pretty much. They've killed the number 2, Mohammed Deif.
So there's
and
another
they've
number
gotten to the point that the Hamas now want the deal, which is not what I agree with Ashley completely. It's not what we were 3 months ago. It's not what we were 4 months ago. It's always very easy to blame the person who has to make the decisions. And yes, the buck stops with them. But I don't understand why it's so egregious that the man is going to make a speech to our most important ally and the people that we have to do business with in order to get the hostages home, in order to get the military equipment that we need.
It sends a message to our enemies as well, that the bonds, the world
But
is
it's
trying
also
to shake up.
backfiring.
It could.
Like you see, Kamala Harris didn't want to meet with him. She didn't want to preside over the
Absolutely.
Senate. Like,
Internally, I agree with what you said, but it does send a message to our enemies that at the end of the day, Biden's saying he's going to withhold weapons from Israel.
Yeah.
Still, they're giving space for the Prime Minister of Israel to speak in their Congress. It's showing something about that bond between America.
yeah, but what does it matter?
say, you know what?
The image is huge protest.
Go for the meetings. Go have some dignified meetings. Get your photo ops. Skip the circus in Congress.
I would
Much
agree with
more
you on that.
effective.
I would
Skip
agree with
the
you on that.
circus. It's all for show. And apropos, we had to, get to this point where Hamas was, the military capabilities were degraded enough that,
They want to deal.
Well, you know what? I've not been in the room, but I'm going to rely on people who have been in the room. That Bibi's done what we call in Canada ragging the puck a lot, running out the clock. He is notoriously indecisive. Don't rely on me. Everyone says it. He does not make decisions, and then he makes them, and then he backtracks. We have a long period of time from December through to March where very little happened.
We should have gone into Rafah, and the world would not have even known what Rafah was.
Exactly. Rather,
We just procrastinated.
So I didn't want to prosecute like in the past, but you raised it, so I had to respond.
It's okay, honey.
And thank you. But I think that the fact that Mohammed Deif has been assassinated honestly means something, but not much. And we don't know. No, we don't know.
It was next to the guy that was obliterated.
But here's what's really interesting is that Hamas has not confirmed his death. Why?
Because he's a symbolic hero.
No, let me finish.
They don't want to.
No, that's not why. Because if they confirm his death, then that means the only standing high-level commander is Sinwar. And that sets off political infighting among the Hamasniks at the next level. It's total chaos. Right now, I was listening to a military podcast where they really know their and they said that it is complete chaos at the lower level. If Hamas confirms Deif is gone, then they've completely lost control.
Well, that's why they haven't. But we know that he's been eliminated. We know
That
that.
just shows how important and strategic that assassination was.
It was, absolutely. And the other thing I can promise you, and I have no basis on which to say this, is there are 100 deaths.
But I have no basis.
I always tell my kids, like, the less you know, the more adamant you can be. That there are 100 deaths in waiting. They're just, there's always
We will all agree.
There's
you cut the head of a
1,000.
Absolutely.
Exactly. You cut the head of a snake, it grows back.
It grows another head. Absolutely. But ultimately, we're here and we're discussing a situation that we never imagined that we would still be in July of 2024 with families who are suffering so tremendously because their loved ones are still in there.
And a country being torn apart.
Yes. And for me, the overwhelming feeling is just that there's nobody driving the ship. That's like my feeling.
I was going to say the bus.
The bus.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in, what's that movie with the bus going out of control? Speed?
Oh, Speed.
I feel like,
I never saw it.
Absolutely.
I feel like
Absolutely.
we're in a speed-like situation, and that's depressing to me. It's not that Bibi's going there. It's not that he's doing the Congress. It's not whatever's happening in America right now. It just feels to me that,
It's like I always say, my biggest fear is not our enemies outside our borders. My biggest fear is what this country is going to look like internally in the next 10 years.
I agree with you 100%, and this is exactly what Hamas saw after the divisions of last year, and this is why they attacked when they did. The one thing that we can agree on around this table is that if there were more women in leadership positions, we wouldn't be in the chaos that we're in. Yes, ladies? And if it was us, even better.